Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and a very happy Eid Mubarak to all of our listeners. You're listening to Amira Farouk on Heritage Radio 90.6 FM, coming live from the British Muslim Heritage Centre in Greater Manchester. I hope you've had a lovely Eid, and I hope you're continuing to have a lovely Eid, inshallah. And if you would like to share, what you've been, how you spent your Eid, or in fact, even things you've learned from Ramadan, I would be very happy to hear from them. But so you can call in or you can text in. So inshallah, I've had a special guest today, and it is Hassan. Brother Hassan, and mashallah, he's the founder of Prayer Cow, which is a new app, and it provides accurate prayer times to work calendars, and so that you can organize your day around what's important, and that is, of course, your prayers. And I will be speaking to him very shortly. I'm just asking him to call on the studio number. If you have any questions, of course, you're free to call in, and let's find out more about Prayer Cow. So it is a free app, and it allows people to arrange their day around their salah, with congregation support coming soon. This is part of the mission statement. And it allows organizations to make salah an exclusive right in the workplace by educating them on the importance of prayers, and to make them aware that rather than detracting from the workday, salah re-energizes Muslims and helps improve their focus at work and promotes positive mental health. And the ultimate goal is to make your team and managers aware that your salah is your right, so that the days of having to squeeze your ibadah between awkwardly timed meetings are over. And inshallah, this sounds like an amazing app, because too often a lot of people in the workplace, they struggle with praying at the right time. It could be meetings, it could be other responsibilities, and this would allow employers, this is what I understand, to sort of incorporate salah times into the work schedules. And it's a potential, I suppose, to revolutionize salah in the workplace, so that more people are able to pray on time, and during office hours. And I know I've been there, I've done that. I've prayed in little rooms, or even in like open cupboards, and trying to squeeze the salah in. It's not easy at all. So we're just waiting for Brother Hassan to call in. And in the meantime, let me tell you about my Eid yesterday. So, alhamdulillah, we came here to the British Muslim Heritage Centre for Eid Salah. And the thing that always, really is very uplifting is when you see people of all different nationalities, and many of them wearing national costumes as well, especially the children. It's really lovely. There were 2 ice cream vans, and they were providing free ice cream for all the children as well, for all the children under 10, which was amazing. And I think we've got Hassan just calling in now. Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Hassan. You are live now on Heritage Radio. And so I was introducing your app, Prayer Cow. Is that the right way to say it?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. And so tell me all about it. Over to you.
Yeah, of course. So, Jazakallah khair for having us on the show. A prayer cal is a free, versatile mobile app, or rather a desktop and a mobile app that uses your location privately. It adds your accurate prayer times to your work calendar. So you can essentially organize your day around what's most important, and that's obviously your salah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely, because otherwise you'd be squeezing in your salah. Hello? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And just some of the. I mean, you've touched up on a good point as well. I think we're very conscious of submitting our assignments in time at work or within the workspace, or pleasing other colleagues perhaps, or even our manager to get the promotion. But often we neglect the most important thing, which is essentially the salah. So I think if you look at the lives of the Sahabas as well, they would organize their days around the salah. If they had a bit of time, then they would do a bit of trade. But it was primarily focused on their salah, and that's essentially what we want to do. So, you receive reminders. You can have customized time slots. So if each prayer takes 10 to 15 minutes, you can have that blocked out on your calendar. You can only select the prayers that you want to see, because obviously in the winter months there's more prayers within the daily, the working time, and then in the summer months it's probably only the Zohar prayer, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially there's nothing to download. It takes a moment to install. We automatically update your prayer times as well throughout the year. So yeah, I mean it's absolutely free of charge as well, and it's to benefit, inshallah, everyone and anyone in the UK.
So is this primarily for employers or employees? Because what I understood that this was specifically for employers to sort of, incorporate the prayer times in the work schedule so that meetings don't overlap, that kind of thing. Or just to tell me what is it really for? I mean.
Yeah, no, that's a very fantastic question that you raised. I think to answer that, the answer is twofold, really. If we look at more companies nowadays, they are incorporating elements of well-being within the workspace, diversity and inclusion, which is fantastic. So I think we have to understand and really take the perspective of where do we sit in terms of the working environment. Are we working in a organization which is predominantly Muslims, or are there many non-Muslims within the workspace? So I think we have to take each case by its basis. Mm-hmm. Saying that, if we look at many other organizations like, we can look at PepsiCo, Deloitte, other big accounting firms, even Tesco, National Rail, they're incorporating multi-faith rooms, wudu cubicles inside of their offices. Mm-hmm. They're doing Ramadan taster days where non-Muslim colleagues are fasting, which is fantastic. So everyone is becoming a lot more open to this, which is great for us, alhamdulillah. And I think it's important for us as Muslim employees to make our colleagues, our managers aware that rather than detracting from the workday, Salah is actually re-energizing us and helping us improve our focus at work and promoting a positive mental health overall as well. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, it's for both employers and employees.
Okay. So I mean, the thing is, somebody could actually say that how different would it be just having like a calendar up, like a prayer timetable? Why specifically an app? What difference would that make?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very valid question. Often when we're fixated on the computer screen for long hours, time can really fly, especially if you're doing deep work. Minutes turn into hours turn into half a day, and it's lunchtime, and before you know it, Salah has been missed, and it's the last thing we think about, unfortunately. So essentially, we wanted to set a reminder on the place where your eyes have been fixated the most throughout the day, and that is, of course, the computer screen, on your laptop, on your work calendar. Many people travel for work. They may be working on their mobile phones, and I can work. Most of my job can be done on a mobile phone now, and of course, here you can also install it within the mobile calendar as well, and it's compatible with all major calendars. Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, Microsoft Calendar. And for us, it's about education as well. I think that's so important. When organizations are making Salah an inclusive right within the workspace, there's no more having to squeeze your ibadah between awkwardly timed meetings.
Yes.
If your colleagues have an understanding of when your prayer time is, for example, they know at 1 p.m. for 15 minutes Muhammad has a slot booked for Zuhur Salah, then they will not schedule any meetings during that period, because they will allow you to pray without having any interruptions. And I think, yes, it's fine for you to look at the calendar, but I think it's also important equally that the wider team, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims, can also see your prayer times as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also this would also encourage prayer and congregation, because your colleagues, if they're Muslim colleagues, you can pray together, and I think that would be pretty good as well, especially if the time is blocked out for Salah at that time. So I think that would help.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very valid point. And I think sometimes we do feel quite isolated in a large working environment if we don't have others to pray with, perhaps, or even share Ramadan, for example, that's just gone with. So I think that is quite important. You get to know your other colleagues within the workspace who are Muslims, who are trying to pray, who have blocked out rooms. I mean, I remember in my previous workspace, they're very kind to allow me to block out the entire meeting room for the whole month in Ramadan, and I could go in, pray uninterrupted, and everyone was sent an email and made aware, and there was only maybe 3 or 4 of us Muslim colleagues within space, and it was nice, like, everybody would join, would pray Salah together. Sometimes we'd even do, if it was a very hectic Jummah, we'd even conduct Jummah together, in the office, which was fantastic. And yeah, absolutely. We do have plans in place to, have conversations with workspaces to incorporate prayer rooms or wudu cubicles, etc., as well within the organizations.
Yeah, that's great. So, how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, this is a very long-winded answer to that. But in short, to be honest with you, I come up with random ideas at 3 a.m. in the morning, or sometimes when I'm in the shower. Out of every one idea I've had, which is a decent idea, and I hope that prayer call is a decent idea, I've equally had 10 bad ideas. There's never one starting point. There's always a history about trying different things and failing, and I think that's important. If you're going to fail, it's important to fail fast. Many of us put off certain ambitious projects that we have planned, but I believe it's crucial that we as Muslims stay ambitious and optimistic throughout our lives. Yeah. I genuinely believe that we all have enough time to work on projects which will benefit the society and ultimately grant you benefit in the akhirah. We may be constantly busy in the pursuit of material gain, and often we neglect the idea of perhaps the idea we perhaps had many years ago. We push back the project which can create a positive impact on society, due to other commitments, and it may be overwhelming at first, and I just want to make this important note for those that are listening out there that do have an idea and have not really gone and tried it out. You may ask yourself, how will I get the money? It will be very overwhelming at first. How will my family and friends support me? What if I fail? But I would advise anybody else who wants to do a project of khair, something like this or anything else, by creating a minimum viable product. Now, what do I mean by a minimum viable product? First, let's assume you have an idea. Okay, let's say you have let's use an example. Your idea is to help those that are unemployed. Okay, you notice that your nearest soup kitchen, many people are struggling due to unemployment. You decide that you want to create a microfinancing initiative, through livelihood projects. So the idea would be to help people out of poverty by providing them with a very small interest-free loan, which of course we as Muslims call Qarz-e Hasana, right? Yes. So say a few £100s, which you can fundraise through family and friends. Now you will give that loan to just one person, who will use that money to, say, buy cleaning supplies, some business cards, go from shop to shop offering to wash their windows in exchange for a small fee. Once they've made back, say, double the amount which was lent to them, they return the initial loan, and then this loan is used again to help someone else. So by the will and permission of Allah, their life is totally transformed and the lives of their families too. So back to the MVP. An MVP is a version of your project or the idea that you have with just enough features to be usable by early beneficiaries who can then provide feedback for future project development. So in our example, we were not overwhelmed with the number of unemployed people in the local soup kitchen. We did not think, how on earth will I be able to help everyone? But rather we started by helping the one person at a time, which created a snowball effect. And if you have sincere intentions, Allah will grant barakah, and that little idea you once had will become greater than something you could have ever imagined for one man or woman to achieve, inshallah. So yeah, I mean, sorry for answering it in a very long-winded way, but I think it's important that others know that if you do have an idea, go for it. Have I mean, look at your contacts list. You will potentially have other people, maybe on your LinkedIn, you might, through your work networks, through your friends and family, there may be resources available, so there's plenty of opportunity as well. But yeah, that's myself and Huzaifa, who's one of our co-founders, we endeavored on this project, and within a span of a couple of months, we were live, alhamdulillah.
Oh, mashallah, that's very good. So my next question is that it is a free app. So how did you get the funding? Because recently I attended a talk and it was I don't remember his name now, but the founder of the Quranly app. And he was talking about how expensive it is to get it up and running and the funding behind it. So how did you get funding for this project?
Yeah, and that's a very good question, a very pertinent one. I'm familiar with the founders of Quranly. It's an absolutely amazing app, to be honest, and it's a game changer in the way we read Quran, alhamdulillah. So yeah, I mean, to answer that question, I would say there's two options really. One, you can obviously bootstrap the organization, and by that I mean looking at what you have in terms of your funding, any savings that you potentially have, perhaps have any other partners on board, and that really does help sometimes if you don't have the funding. So if you don't, say you think an app is going to cost £10,000, and you think, okay, maybe I have £2,000 saved, but I need another 8,000 from somewhere. Perhaps looking at, going to business networking events, trying to find co-founders who have skills within the space, and seeing if they can also invest some of their money, but also giving them a healthy percentage or equity of the organization's share as well. Because ultimately, it's not a risk-free strategy. They are obviously putting in their money. By giving them a percentage back, you're saying, okay, this is your reward based on the risk that you are willing to put in. But there are other ways as well. There's potentially grants available as well. I'm not quite familiar with that space. We did bootstrap it ourselves. But to be honest with you, there's many different ways nowadays to create products without having to hire developers, without having to, become a software engineer yourself. You can go onto many different platforms online without trying to name too many brands, but you can look at tutorials on Google on how to create a website for free. And like I said, it is about the minimum viable product. So it's about trying something in the smallest possible way, the quickest possible way, to see if that there will be any traction. And once you do have that traction, then you can start to look at ways of seeking investment, going and finding co-founders and looking at funding as well, inshallah.
Yes, of course. You have to test the water. You have to make sure that, this is what people want. So you also, I read that you've recently been supported by Iqbal Naseem, who is the ex-CEO of National Zakat Foundation, and he's created a video talking about prayer cow. So inshallah, that's pretty good as well. So you're almost like in partnership with, no, he's not in National Zakat Foundation anymore, but you've got an important figure supporting you, and I think that's good as well. And the other thing that I was going to say is the prayer app itself, I think it's an excellent form of dawah, for especially when you've got a mixed environment in the workplace. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, as Muslims, actions speak louder than words. And I think, the best form of da'wah is through your sincerity, through your kindness, through showing acts of love and admiration to both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And that's very important. So when non-Muslims see that, Mohammed or Amina at the workplace is very disciplined, They're praying the prayers on time. They're sharing in the iftar. They're bringing in food, perhaps even to the workspace. They're really bringing them in to their cultural ways of life, and being open to demonstrate and explain how things work. I think it does reflect a true light of Islam, and I think that's very important. But absolutely, I think, going back to the point, it is dawah, and the responsibility is huge upon us as well, because we are essentially responsible for accurate prayer times throughout the whole of the UK, based on where you are, and it's a big amana, and that's why I think it's so important that us as developers, as marketers, we stay on top with the changing trends. We stay on top with all of the difference of times. We incorporate both the Hanafi and the Shafi preferences for the Asr prayer as well. And it's absolutely private. It's 100% private. We have a privacy. The data that you have, it will always be private. Your location will remain anonymous. We never share your details with any third parties without your consent. So that's very important to know as well.
Yeah, so I mean, sorry for asking this question, but recently there's been a high-profile case of an app, and they were accused of, I think it was data protection, and they were misusing the data. So I think people are a little bit more savvy about these apps now. So how can you reassure people that you will hold the data in accordance with the law?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's important for us to follow GDPR rules. Have the correct documentation in place. For us, it's important that like I said, the data and the details of anybody who installs the calendar remains completely anonymous, including their location, and it will always be 100% private. We don't share it without your consent. The only communications you'll get from us is via email, for example. To provide you updates, or even send you newsletters, perhaps, or regular reminders. But ultimately, it is, like I said, 100% private, and it will be forever as well. Similarly to the calendar being free as well forever. So, inshallah.
Oh, inshallah, it's a brilliant idea. So, tell me more about yourself. What is your day job? Have you had any other projects as well? You said you have lots of ideas, especially in the shower.
Yeah, I think I need to invest in one of those waterproof notebooks and stick it on the shower. So I began working in the field of finance many moons ago, but I didn't quite enjoy it. So I stumbled across charity videos and social media, as you do. I figured I wanted to be part of the change. So I was blessed enough to have the opportunity to work for a Muslim charity in the marketing and fundraising department. Absolutely loved it. I saw the world in a completely different lens, and I felt certain that whatever I do career-wise in my personal life, it must be to benefit others, inshallah. I enjoy working on projects in my personal time, like Prayer Cal. There is another project that I've embarked upon recently, which is creating the UK's first Islamic will portal. That can benefit the society at large, essentially. And now,
what is that? The well portal?
No, so it's called True Wills, and it's basically the UK's first Islamic will portal. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Absolutely. So essentially, you can go on within 20 minutes. You can create your Islamic will, and we have an in-house solicitor who can approve it within 7 working days. And then you, as a will writer or a testator, which is the strictly term used in the law space, will essentially be able to make unlimited changes throughout the entire year for free to your will as well when your circumstances change. So that's something completely different, and we've spent many years trying to build that. And to be honest, for us, it's more about education. It's about educating the Muslims on the importance of having wills, living here as a Muslim in the UK. But yeah, I mean, projects like that. I now also work full time as a marketing manager as well for another UK-based charity which educates Muslims on the importance of halal. And yeah, that's where I spend most of my time, alhamdulillah.
Is that HMC?
That's correct. I don't know if we're allowed to say brands.
No. I think, of course, and
It's good to hear that. It's good to hear that the word halal was synonymous with the HMC. I'm glad to hear it.
I mean, the thing is, whatever we can do, we have to make sure our food is halal, and especially for our families. So yes, definitely. Yeah, mashallah, it sounds like you're very active and you have loads of ideas. And like you said before, that I think we need to encourage people to, was it somebody who says if you can dream it, you can make it, or something? So you should try.
Yeah.
You should try.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think especially Muslim apps like this. It's far from being saturated. It's a lot of scope, and like you mentioned, especially the will writing. It's an app, yes, it's an app.
No, so it's just a web portal. So it's basically like a car. Yeah. So whenever you submit your car insurance details every year to find, for example, on these large comparison sites. Essentially, it's like a portal, so it asks you questions. It asks you how many children you have. For example, if you want to appoint any guardians for them, especially if they're under 18. It asks you about your executors, your trustees, and those are people who will be responsible for carrying out the instructions in your will. On our portal, we also have a system which hosts majority of the Muslim UK Muslim registered charities. So you can leave a portion of your wealth to any charity, like up to a third of your wealth, of course.
That's a good idea.
You can leave it to a neighbour. Yeah, absolutely. You can even leave instructions, with regards to your funeral, where you want your burial to take place. And I think it's very important that we, think about these things, because we often always delay the inevitable. We think, essentially we think we're never going to die. So, we believe that long age is promise. And we always put it off. If you look at, similarly, if you've got an assignment at university, we only submit it. I speak for myself first and foremost, but if I know that the assignment is submitted due tomorrow, I'll do it last minute, right?
Yes.
Here we're just constantly delaying, and for us it's about education. It's about speaking to different communities, visiting mosques, hosting webinars as well through truewills.co.uk every month, which is a free webinar which we showcase how to write a will and the importance of writing one living here in the UK. So essentially, it's free to sign up, and you only pay at the end once your will is ready to be reviewed by our solicitor.
Okay, that's brilliant. So Prayer Cal, has it been launched? Is it up and running?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's prayercal.com. And it's been running since I believe we launched this from at the start of the Ramadan, alhamdulillah. We're pulling through around, I think, just over 1,000 calendars per day now. So for us, we're not. To be honest with you, our main focus right now hasn't been growth. I think it's more so about making sure that we, dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure there's no bugs, there's no errors, because when there's so many calendars being pulled, we need to make sure there are accuracies in place, measures in place. If there's any issues with different types of calendars, different providers, we need to be able to. Mashallah, Huzaifa is our software developer, so he's unfortunately he couldn't be on the call today, but he's pretty much the brains behind the project. I'm just the salesman. Even though we're not selling anything, it's free. Alhamdulillah. If anybody wants to sign up, they can try on the phone, try on the desktop. But ultimately, for us, it's about really promoting the importance of prayer. And if you allow me, I'll share, I think, a few stories as well. I think from some pious predecessors on prayer. For anyone that's listening, Ramadan, alhamdulillah, is now over. And one of the great predecessors, he said, do not worship Ramadan, worship Allah. Sometimes we become so attached to Ramadan and so sad when it's over. But it's like anything else. You lose a loved one, you lose maybe a job or a material item. Allah will always remain, irrespective of Ramadan, right? So essentially, we need to. If you started praying, whether it was once, twice, maybe 5 times in the month, continue that forward. We look at. I'll give you an example of those before, so we've experienced the joys of Salah. We look at Hatim al-Hassam. Okay, his friends once asked him, describe to us how you pray. And he said, I carry out the obligations, I walk to the mosque in the fear of Allah. I set for my prayer a clear intention. I begin with prayer with takbir in awe of Allah. I recite the Quran in a slow, calm, measured way with contemplation. I bow with submissiveness. I prostrate with humility. And I sit correctly for the shahud. And then I end my prayer according to the sunnah. And then I hand over my prayer to Allah in the end with sincerity. And what is the conclusion from all this? The conclusion, he said, simply put, the conclusion he said, and then I worry after this in apprehension at the thought of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not accepting this prayer from me. They had joy in the salah and their minds were engaged. Now if we compare that with the salah of you and I, not yourself specifically. I mean, just the everyday Muslim. Where is our mind? When we are praying salah.
It's true.
If you look at the likes of Abu Amr, he was not too fond of leading people in salah. But one day he was compelled and pushed forward to lead. He turned to the congregation and he said, "Stand in line," like the Imam would usually say before starting the prayer. Keep in line. And the moment he said that, he fell down to the ground and he was unconscious until the very next day. And when he finally woke up, they asked him what had happened. You were about to start and you fell unconscious. And he said, "As I instructed you to stand in line, I imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying to me, oh my servant, have you ever kept straight for me for even one moment in your life so that you should instruct other people to keep straight?" And he passed out. It's just the consciousness they have. I mean, I'll give you another final example. Sorry, just one more. But Abdullah ibn Zubayr, birds would descend onto him due to the length of his bowing, of his prostration. They would think he's some sort of stump of wood or something. And when he'd come home, the family members, they would be in silence, out of awe and respect for him. But the moment he would start praying, Abdullah ibn Zubayr, they would start chit-chatting and socializing, because they knew when Abdullah begins his prayer, he's completely disconnected with this world and he's established a complete separate connection with Allah as well. Compare that to the prayer of you and I.
May Allah help us to achieve at least some way towards that. I think what you're doing is amazing, because at the end of the day, you are encouraging people to pray the salah, on time, and in any situation, even in the workplace. And I suppose it could be used in any situation, really. And hopefully this will encourage businesses and companies as well to have the facilities for Muslims. I mean, I remember some years ago we went to the Science Museum in London, and I was so surprised that there was a prayer room there. Mashallah. I mean, things are changing. And what kind of feedback have you got so far from the people who've downloaded the app?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. I think feedback is very crucial for us at these early stages. We've had some very positive. We created a testing group before we even launched. So we had many different software developers. We had other prominent Muslim figures who are well versed within this technological space, who understand the space. So they were testing the product, providing feedback, providing recommendations, and all of that was incorporated in building the actual product itself. It is not an app. It is just we call it a web app, and what it is basically you just download it directly from you don't even, sorry, there's nothing to download. Let me correct my statement. You install a calendar, and when you click install, it redirects you directly to your calendar. Your work calendar, whether it's on your mobile phone or whether you're logged into Gmail or Outlook, for example. There were bugs at the start, which alhamdulillah Huzayf has been very good at ironing them out, to clearing them up. But just to backtrack as well, you made a very good point about going to the think tank museum and seeing what's there. I think that's brilliant. And I think as Muslims, we should, and I'd like to give some, maybe towards the end of this call now as well, I'd like to give some practical steps at work that Muslims can take as well.
Go ahead.
And I think, it's very important as Muslims that we do manage expectations and we never shy away from certain requests. So I think it's important that, during a job interview, for example, that we do make it clear that we may need an extra 30 minutes during the lunch break, for example, to attend the local mosque for Jummah, and that we'll make up for any lost time by either coming in early, on the Monday morning, or staying back late, perhaps on that Friday. we may even ask at the end of the interview, when there's a chance for questions, what have you done in recent years to allow for diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
Yeah.
And this essentially will give you an indicator as to how flexible they may be. Would they be open to having a multi-faith room or allowing a meeting room to be booked during certain times of the day to enable you to pray? If you look at a common work day, tea and coffee breaks and smoking breaks are quite the norm, right? And Salah doesn't take more than 10 minutes. So I do believe that, like I said, more and more companies are very open, they're very flexible, they're very inclusive, which is fantastic, alhamdulillah, and good news for us. And I think we need to make it clear as well, in the winter months, the frequency will be a lot more than the summer months. I mean, you may be praying as well, Asr and your Maghrib, for example.
Yes.
But then in summer, like I said, it would just be the one prayer. And we do on our website as well, we're going to have email templates for your manager, for your colleagues, as well, so that you can actually copy and paste those and just send it as well with all the requisites.
No, that's brilliant. Jazakallah khair. It's been an eye-opener, mashallah. It's an amazing app, and I wish you every success, and may it be heavy on your balance of good deeds, because what, at the end of the day, what you are doing is you're promoting salah and encouraging others to pray, and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may Allah reward you. Jazakallah khair.
I'd just like to end with a couple of things, and I think it's very important whenever somebody is praised directly. Firstly, Jazakallah khair, I appreciate the kind words, and may Allah accept your dua. The scholars say that when somebody praises someone, they should say inshallah, because we should see as somebody actually making dua for that person, rather than thinking that Allah has already accepted this work from us. That's the first thing. And the second thing, when Allah actually asks us, or rather tells us in the Quran to do good, whether that's paying zakah, praying salah, fasting, Allah actually tells us to seek forgiveness after that. Why? Because when we seek forgiveness, it eradicates the potential of the intention being pretty much. Yeah, and also I can't remember the word, to be honest. But the intention being corrupted, that's the word I'm looking for. So when we ask Allah for forgiveness after, that's one way that inshallah Allah will genuinely grant us this project, and that will benefit mankind. And for us, it is a Sadaqah Jari project. Like I said, it will always be free forever. Inshallah it will change millions of lives, and that's what we hope. And inshallah, it will inspire others as well within the community, and anybody listening, to really just take that first step. Don't think about it. If you've got an idea, start today. Whatever you can do. You don't have to build a website overnight, but even start to contact people that that can help, inshallah. And trust me, with barakah, it will go a long way as well, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. And that was Hassan from prayercow.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's www.prayercal, so that's prayercal.com.
And mashallah, Jazakallah khair for joining me today. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.